All right, let's talk about something that, seems so simple, but is actually one of the most powerful communication tools we have today, the meme. And no, we're not just going to be looking at funny cat pictures. We are going to break down the user manual for these little cultural capsules to figure out how they became this genuine lever of influence.
It really all boils down to this one question, which is kind of wild when you stop and think about it, right? How can a simple image, sometimes a really, really basic one, or just a short phrase, spread like wildfire and end up shaping public debate, getting huge crowds mobilized, and sometimes even making governments a little nervous? That's the whole mechanism we're going to unpack together.
Okay, so let's get right into it. To really get what gives this tool so much punch, you have to understand how it's built. And that means we got to ask, where did the idea of a meme even come from in the first place?
And here is our first big surprise. The whole story of the meme? It doesn't start on the internet at all. Not even close. We have to go way back to a source that's, well, a lot more academic than you'd think.
That's right, we're going back to its pre-internet origin, back to the original idea, long before anyone had ever heard a dial-up modem or scrolled through a social media feed.
Now, what's so fascinating here is the time gap. The word meme was actually coined way back in 1976 by the biologist Richard Dawkins, but it took a full 20 years for that concept to find its perfect playground, the internet. That dancing baby, that weird little GIF that got emailed around everywhere, that was one of the very first signs of this power. It was like Dawkins' theory was suddenly coming to life right in front of us.
See, for Dawkins, a meme is basically a cultural gene. It's an idea that acts just like a biological gene. It copies itself, it changes a little bit each time, and it evolves to survive. Just thinking about it that way, it gives this incredible depth to something we usually just write off as a joke, right?
Okay, so we've got the definition down. But now, let's look at the mechanics. What's the secret recipe that turns a simple, sometimes even silly, idea into this massive wave that just crashes over the internet?
Well, the whole process is really a masterpiece of collaboration. It all starts with a little spark, right? A basic idea. But the real magic, the part that matters, happens next, when people make it their own. They don't just passively share it. No, they imitate it, they twist it, they remix it into something new. It's like this giant, ongoing creative conversation, where only the strongest versions survive and spread. It's literally the democracy of an idea in action.
We have this reflex to think that for a meme to work, it has to be funny. But that's kind of taking a shortcut. Sure, humor is a great vehicle, but the real engine driving all of this is emotional connection. Whether an idea makes you laugh out loud, or gets you angry, or feels inspiring, what really matters is that it creates an immediate spark of recognition. It just clicks.
And because they're constantly creating this connection, memes have evolved. They've stopped being just simple messages. They've become something so much bigger, a real language with its own rules, its own grammar, and its own inside jokes.
And this isn't just a feeling. Actual linguists like Albin Wegener are studying this. They say the meme is a totally new way of telling stories. And that right there explains why it's so effective. It uses codes we all get instantly. A look on someone's face, a situation we've all been in. But its greatest strength is that the meaning is never forced on you. It's co-constructed. It's a constant dialogue between the person who made it and everyone who sees it.
So, when a language gets this powerful and this universal, it's pretty much inevitable that it's going to find its way into the most intense battlefield of ideas there is, politics. And this is where the meme really shows its two faces.
On the one hand, it's an incredible tool for democracy. It lets literally anyone with an internet connection critique power and start a debate from the ground up. But on the other hand, it's an incredibly powerful propaganda weapon. Because memes are so good at getting an instant emotional reaction, they can totally bypass our critical thinking. They can boil down super complex issues into one punchy image, which makes them perfect for spreading misinformation and manipulating how people feel.
And to really get why this arena is so critical, you just have to look at this number. Almost 60% of millennials in the US get their news primarily from social media. On that battlefield, a really well-made meme can have way more impact than a long, well-researched article. It just completely changes the rules of the game in the battle for our attention.
And the real-world examples are just staggering. In France, a single meme about the penniless/bénévole scandal basically summed up an entire political crisis in one devastating image. On a global scale, the Kony 2012 campaign showed us that memes could mobilize millions. And then you have the really serious side, like the case of Walid Kashida in Algeria, who was actually put in prison for sharing memes. It's a stark reminder that this language has very, very real consequences.
So, what's the big takeaway here? What should we remember from all this? The meme isn't just some fascinating internet thing to watch from the sidelines. It's power. It's a form of power whose keys are, potentially, in everyone's hands. And that brings us to maybe the most important point of all. In the world of memes, the old rules are just thrown out the window. A massive marketing budget? Totally irrelevant. What really, truly matters is a good idea hitting at the perfect time with just a flash of creativity. And that's what makes it such an unbelievably democratic tool.
A single person or a small group can launch a message that actually creates real change. It's the power to grab attention and build a connection. A meme is so much more than just a picture. It's a language, it's a vehicle for ideas, it's a lever for change.
So really, the question isn't whether this tool is powerful or not. We know it is. The real question we have to ask ourselves is, what do we want to do with it? If the only thing that matters, the only currency, is creativity, then what's the message that you want to share with the world?